All right. First, to start, I want to introduce myself. My name is Chelsea Cody. I like to say I'm the newest member of the digital learning team now. I can't say I am brand new because I came in the fall, but luckily came just in time before everything, went a little bit crazy with our abnormal, as Susan was saying earlier, or our new normal. So I am really excited today to share two things with you. We're going to talk about Pear Deck and we're going to talk about Screencastify. Okay, looking at our formative assessments while we're doing both synchronous, meaning live trainings with our students, or excuse me, not trainings, that's what I do, lessons with our students. And then asynchronous is when they are looking at it separate from us, because we know our home environments of our students are very varied. Their devices are varied. So everything we're looking at today is going to be supporting them. Before I get too deep, I did want to point out our office hours, and I see a couple of friendly faces over in our chat that have come to these office hours every day from 8 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, and then 2 to 3. You can come pop into our office hours. You can bounce ideas off of us. If there's something you're having issues with that you want us to walk through live with you, you can come to those office hours. And we also have a Flipgrid help topic. So if you submit a question to that, we'll get to those questions. Today, while we are going through our presentation, you might want to have this up as well. So if you open up a new tab and you type this bit.ly in, so bit.ly/ClubHillFam, it just came out to Formative Assessments and Modeling, came out to FAM. I thought that was cute. Brian is also going to drop the link to that in the chat. It's going to look exactly like what I'm doing today. So if you want to pull that up while I'm talking through our goals. Our main goals for today are to look at PairDeck for live. Again, that's synchronous. So if you've been seeing anywhere on social media and they're talking about synchronous and asynchronous, they're using that to talk about live. We are doing a synchronous training right now. But if I wanted my students to do something later, student-paced, I still want to have that formative assessment. That would be our asynchronous. Okay, and then we're also going to talk about modeling and annotating in that model with Screencastify. And we'll have a little bit of Q&A for both of those. And if there's something else that comes up that you've been dying to ask us as the digital learning team, we will do our best to answer that as well. I'll give you one more second on that presentation. We'll go ahead and give you the links to this at the end as well. So if you're worried it's going to disappear, it won't. We'll give it to you so you'll have the link. Again, Brian is over in the chat. Okay, his Bitmoji is just as happy as he is. If you have any questions while I'm moving throughout, excuse me, if you'd like me to go over something again, or if you want to put it in the chat so that I can re-show you during our Q&A, remember our chat is over there to the right on your Meet. You can type it in there. Brian will do his best to answer while we're going, or he'll let me know if it's something that I should go back and cover. First thing I want to talk about is, why are we talking about formative assessments already right at the beginning? Catlin Tucker is the queen of blended learning, and she asked a question that really stuck with me. What are you learning about your students during the lesson? And when we're teaching virtually, it's more important than ever that we're having them respond in some way. We're having that formative assessment because a lot of the verbal cues or nonverbal cues are missing. We can see them sometimes in the window, but they might have it, their camera turned off, they're muted, we're not hearing their O's, their ahs. So we're going to be looking at formative assessment for meeting our student needs, providing scaffolding, personalizing our learning, and then planning our follow-up instruction. Again, we're leveling up our learning for our students. Excuse me. First thing that we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys all join a Pear Deck as a student so that you're going to see the student side of things, and then I'm going to be showing you the teacher side of things. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and change my presentation mode. And this is exactly how I would do it with students as well. Sometimes I might present with students just a single window. So you were just seeing a single window a second ago. But sometimes I want to show you the whole screen. So I'm going to go ahead and make. So you can see over here on the right, if I was a teacher, I would have my Meet. I want to show my grid view so I could see all of my student faces that have their camera turned on. And then on the left, I would have whatever I'm showing to my students. Now, I realize if you're on a Chromebook or another device, this is a lot smaller. but I want you to see how my setup is right now. As a student, to join the Pear Deck, you're going to open a new tab. And if you didn't know on Chrome, these tabs are draggable. So I can drag it out. So I'm in a split screen like this. And you're going to go to joinpd.com. Okay. You are going to enter the code that I'm going to give you here on the presentation in just a second, but I wanted to model opening up that page. Okay. Here is the code that you're going to use to join. Now, if I'm a teacher and I'm using PairDeck, I also have an option to paste in my Google Meet a link to this PairDeck. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in that link as well. I just want to model a couple of different ways that you could get your students to PairDeck. And while you are getting in, I'm going to open up my teacher dashboard. And I'll make this nice and big for you as well. Make you small over here. If I was presenting with students, I would just have open my teacher dashboard. I will let you know with PairDeck every once in a while, because Google gets overwhelmed around 1040. I have to go back and try and reopen it a couple of times, but it's usually successful. This is good modeling for you guys though, because you can see what it would look like if I was a teacher actually loading this as my students are watching. Okay, so I went ahead and exited out of the code, and I'm gonna make my presentation that's over here smaller and just show you my dashboard, because it's going to be the same thing. If I was in a classroom, this window right here that has the slides nice and big, I might put on that teacher TV that we have, and then this smaller one I might have on a separate screen. You can see at the top of this presentation, it still has that code, and that link should still be live. So if you are not in, that is a-okay. And you are seeing on your screen what the student side looks like. So as a teacher, if I'm in PairDeck, I can move your screen along if we are live. If it was student pace, you would be moving at your own pace. So I'm going to go to the slide I would like you on now. So this, again, I'm just showing you how I would talk my students through, hey guys, you want to have your student PairDeck on one side, you want to see me on the other, because we want them to be able to see what we are talking about. We want to be able to see them. And then we also want them to be able to interact with the PairDeck. First thing you would do on the teacher side of things, and again, you'll have access to this whole slide deck, so you don't need to go add this right now, but you would add the PairDeck add-on. What this allows you to do is drop templates on any Google slide presentation you have. So how I made this was I made a Google slide presentation, and then I used the add-on to drop in some interactive activities. I don't have a ton in here today, but if I was with students, I would put in an activity every time I want that formative assessment. You also want to add on the PairDeck Power-Up. The Power-Up allows your students to see the videos that you have embedded and GIFs. So if I have a GIF in there, then it would process at the same time. You'll add both of these by doing these steps right here in your Google slide. You'll go to add-ons, get add-ons, and then you'll search for the PairDeck add-on. Okay. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Again, this is in that presentation that you guys have access to. Once I have the slide presentation and I click on that PairDeck add-on, it's going to open up a menu on the right of a ton of different templates. They have formative assessments for before, during, after lesson. They have content-specific templates as well. And I'm going to include on our presentation some templates for littles. Now, some of them are for like littles, pre-K through 2. But you could adapt some of those to match what you are doing with your students, because PairDeck is also for pre-K-12, for PD. So some of the templates you might want to have easier and then up the difficulty as you need. When I find an activity I want, when I click on that activity, it adds this gray bar. So I have a gray bar at the bottom of my slide. That's what triggers the PairDeck interaction. So I'm going to show you what that actually looks like. And you're going to do this on your side. Okay, the slide says, drag your dot to indicate whether you take your coffee very seriously. And you can tell on my slide, I'm seeing all of your dots. And you can see the presentation I'm showing you has all of your dots. But on your side right now, you're only seeing your dot move. As the teacher, I have an option to show you everybody's responses. I can lock the screen, or I can look at individual student responses. So from the teacher dashboard, right now, I have the overlay layout. So I'm seeing everybody's answers all at once. If I wanted to see just a single student, I can click what's called the grid layout. And from here, I can see how each student is answering. Now, you're only shown on here if you are moving the dot. So as people are moving the dot, I can see their names popping up. I also really like, if you were here at the beginning of the meeting, it asks you, how are you feeling today? I think it was a green, a yellow, and a red. Or if you came in a little bit late, you didn't answer. So I can see like who's really happy, who's okay, who I might want to be focusing on. Maybe they're not going to have the best day. And I can see where every dot is. If I want to share the answers with my students, I can show responses. So on your side, you're now seeing everybody's responses. If I have one student who's being like really crazy and that dot's just flying all around, because we know we have those students, they can see that their dot is moving and everybody can see it. I can lock your screen. So now you can't move your dot at all. So I'm going to unlock my screen and I'm going to hide responses. So now I'm seeing the dots, but you don't see those. Okay. Once I have all of my interactions that I want in that slide deck, I'm going to present directly from PairDeck.com. You can present from the add-on, but I like to do it from PairDeck.com with my teacher login because there's more options on there. So as a teacher, to do what I just did today, I went to PairDeck.com. I logged in with my Garland account. Very important I log in with my Garland account because we have premium. Premium is what allowed me to see your name on all of your responses. Without premium, we just see generic responses. I won't know whose is whose. And then when I present from my drive, I can see all of the slide decks I've created and I can choose which one to present. So that's what I did today. I made my slide and then I went to PairDeck.com. And one of the things that I can do once I'm choosing to present, I choose that slide deck, I can make it student paced. Again, that's our asynchronous, or I can do a live session. So today I did a live session with you guys. If I wanted this to be student paced, I would choose student paced, and then I can post the link to that wherever they would access it. For me, because you're 3 through 5, I could post it as an assignment in Google Classroom. So I could say, hey guys, here's our Pear Deck for today. Make sure you go through all the activities and answer whatever I'd want my directions on Google Classroom. And this is that link I can share, or I can click share to classroom and it will create the assignment for me. I fix all the wording, I click post. And then students will log into Pear Deck using their Google account. Okay. Again, this is what I did today when I had you guys join. I put a link in the chat. I gave you the code. And then I opened my teacher dashboard so that I could see everything that you were doing there. Really quickly, here's another example of a type of activity you can do. You can see on my side, I'm not seeing anything yet because you guys haven't started writing. So this could be an end of lesson activity. What was easy? What was hard? What would you like me to recover? Students can draw. They can insert a text box. Whatever works for them there. And right now I only have a couple of students, so you see they're nice and big, but as more start adding on to their slide, they'll start getting smaller and smaller. This is good for me to go back to at the end of my lesson as well, so that I can see, okay, so-and-so didn't want to raise their hand using the nod extension, but it looks like they want me to readdress blank. Okay, this is great feedback for you. And then you notice as a teacher, if it's a live lesson, if I move on from this slide right now, you don't have the opportunity to continue working. So those of you that are typing, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut off your time. Obviously, as a teacher, I would give a lot more time on that for them to work. Okay. This again is what the teacher dashboard looks like. So I'm actually in the teacher dashboard. We've got our icons for overlay or grid view. I have my slide deck. I can see what's coming up. I can move between slides very easy here. If I put notes in the slide deck, you notice on mine, I have these little notes over here. I can see whatever I'm prompting myself to say, but you guys don't see the notes. I'm the only one that sees the notes. Most of my notes on this presentation were attributions for materials I was using. At this point, we are going to get out of our Pear Deck and we're going to go back to just the normal presentation. But before I go too far, I want to see if we have any questions. So if you have a question, Brian.
There isn't any questions in the chat right now.
Cool. If you had a question you wanted me to address really quickly about Pear Deck, Brian said we don't have any in the chat, but you're welcome to raise your hand using the nod extension, and then we can talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it now and you want to do it at the next Q&A, we can do that too. If you don't have any questions, go ahead and give me a thumbs up with the nod extension.
Chelsea, I had a teacher that asked about doing like a phonemic awareness lesson with Pear Deck. She wanted to know, like, is there a way to put in like sound boxes and have interaction? So are they able to manipulate these templates, the layout, or is this set by Pear Deck?
No, so this template I actually used was a Google Slides presentation I made all on my own. If I inserted audio into a Google slide, which we could go through the steps of that at the end if that would help as well, or that might be something I know is in our catalog, so I can point that out as well. Okay, Selena, let me ask you this. You said it worked in slides, but then when you put it into Pear Deck, it did not work. Did you have the Pear Deck Power Up installed?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. I will have to look into that a little bit. I don't know if they're having issues with their Power Up on the Pear Deck side, because you can see nothing was animated on my presentation today, but I have animations in there. And I have the Power Up as well. My suggestion to you would be, with those audio in there, the Power Up is what's supposed to make it so that you can click. So on mine, on this Q&A one, Selena, let me ask you this. Are you able to click on any of the hyperlinks? So I have a hyperlink on this Q&A slide. When you click on that hyperlink, does it work for you?
Yes, I just clicked on it.
Okay, so then the audio should work if they're clicking on the insert audio, because what it takes them with that is it's a link to a Google Drive item. I'm going to make a note to myself to explore that and then circle back with you to see what's going on with that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay. Yeah, and then I could hear the audio working from Martine's webinar there. I recognize that music. So, so something's working on there, but I'm not sure what. Okay, we're going to go ahead and keep moving on to our next section. I'm going to end this presentation, and I'm going to show you something. It's going to take it a minute, but I always click Publish Student Takeaways. What that does is, once they process, and it can take a while, it will create a Google Doc automatically in your Drive, okay, that has your interaction from today. So if it was students, they would get a copy of their Pear Deck, the things that they had typed, the things that they had written. It does take a while to process depending on how busy Pear Deck is, but those takeaways will be right there in their Drive. And it's got a place for reflection that they can look into. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to our presentation. I'm going to get out of the Pear Deck. And I'm going to move us forward. So now we're going to be focusing all on Screencastify. And how to create our video tutorial. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change what I'm presenting so you're not seeing my whole screen. I'm going to go back to just a single window. And if I was a teacher and I was doing a live lesson, I would probably be bouncing back and forth from whole screen to just the window. So again, I'm back to just the window and I have our presentation. Really quickly, just to gauge how much experience we have with Screencastify, will you give me a clapping emoji if you are already using Screencastify? on that nod extension, if you will click the clapping emoji, if you have already used Screencastify to record a video tutorial for your students. Okay, so we have some people that are already using Screencastify. If you are not, would you give me a, let's see what emoji you can give me, a thumbs down. I wish we still had the wow and the LOL emojis. That feels better than a thumbs down to me. I'm wondering if they all have nod as well. So if they're signed into their Garland account, they should be able to see the nod extension, but
I don't know
not.
where to do it. I see the thumbs up and the hand raise, but I don't know where to go for the other emojis.
See the thumbs up. Okay, when you click the thumb, a bunch of emojis will drop down. So if that helps. This is something I'm modeling too that you could use with your students. If they're on a Garland ISD account on a either their Chromebook or a computer, a laptop, and they're signed into Chrome, when they're in your Google Meet, they will have those emojis as well, the nod extension, and they'll also have the grid extension. So another way that you could have some quick formative assessment. Okay, with Screencastify, this is another extension that we're going to talk about today. The reason I'm going to use Screencastify is a couple of people have already used this, but I do want to tell you there are other screen recording materials out there, and I'm going to give you a resource that you can go watch Brian's phenomenal webinar. Okay, that webinar is actually, I think, a slide. So if you have not seen Brian Dean's webinar, he did an amazing Screencastify and Flipgrid screen recording, how to record tutorials. I dropped a link to that right here. So once we're done today, he goes a lot more in depth. I'm going to really focus on how we mark up materials for our students, because if I'm doing a tutorial, I'm not going to just talk to them like this, or if I have something physically behind me that works, but I want to be able to mark up the documents that I'm sharing with them. So your first steps would be adding that extension, just like with PairDeck. Okay. You might need to update your Chrome. Chrome has been updating the last couple of days. So if you're trying to add it, it's not working, it's a little bit glitchy, make sure you update your browser for that. A couple of features, Brian talks about these in his webinars as well, is you can record up to 5-minute videos. You can get a lot accomplished in a 5-minute video. And then when you record them, they're automatically saved to your drive. It links to your drive because of the Chrome extension. We're going to talk about that annotating during the recording so my students can see me marking through whatever they need to be filling out. I can quickly trim off the ends. Maybe I had a couple ums, I want to stop. And then I can post this to Google Classroom. I can publish it to YouTube, or one of my favorite things that you can do is you can download it as a GIF. And we'll talk about that in a second. First thing that you need to do to mark up a document on your screen is to take a screenshot. So I put the steps there for a Mac, or if you're using a Chromebook, or if you're on a PC where you're using Windows, you would use the snipping tool. So this over on the left is actually a 4th grade writing prompt, STAR writing prompt, okay? I taught 7th grade writing, so I felt comfortable using the 4th grade one, so that's why I went with the writing one. I just took a screenshot, Shift-Command-4, drag until I showed the whole screen, and then I had my screenshot. The reason that I recommend having a screenshot rather than me marking over a presentation is it stands still. So if I'm trying to mark over a presentation and I accidentally hit the next key or I scroll down, my markings don't follow with it. After I took the screenshot, it was on my desktop, so I uploaded it to my drive and I opened that image in my drive. So this is what it looks like when you have it open in your drive. Once I have that image in my drive, I'm going to go ahead and start my Screencastify. I like to have my videos where my face is down in the corner. So picture in picture, my students can see me actually talking through this and they can see whatever I'm writing. So here I'm clicking on the extension. I'm making sure I have the settings I want, and then I'm clicking record. That's simple. And I want to click record on whatever page I actually want to be recorded, or I can choose my entire desktop, in which case I could, maybe model for my students how I would split my screen, what that would look like. And then I'm going to start marking. So over here on the left, this GIF is showing me actually marking up my writing prompt. With my 7th graders, I always told them, don't worry about the read, because they'd get confused. Don't worry about the think, they'd get confused. we're going to focus on the write. What do I actually need to write here? And then I would use the checklist at the bottom for me to go back and check my editing. You can see I have a couple of little red strays there. I had written something and I erased it. I'm including an annotating tool walkthrough. This is actually a student walkthrough. So some teachers are able to have their students create their Screencastifys where they're marking it up to explain what they are doing, their reasoning behind things. It's the same tools that we're able to access on our end. So those are the tools that are down here in that bottom corner of the GIF. I also wanted to point out that there are some cursor settings. There's a spotlight setting, and then there's a red circle setting. So when I click, a red circle would show up if I have that. So again, I would mark whatever I need to mark. I'm in that 5 minutes. And then once I have whatever it is that I want to share with them, I'm going to share that recording with my students. What I'm modeling here in the GIF is how to get back to your recording. Sometimes people will record something and they're saying, I don't know where it went. I don't know how to find the link. The nice thing about using Screencastify is it's automatically saved to your Google Drive. So if I can't find the video later on, I go to that folder in my Google Drive, I click on the video, or I can go to the extension as well and go to my recordings. It'll pull up all my recordings. I can then edit. And when you're done with the video, usually the screen where it's asking Google Drive, copy shareable link, how to share, that will automatically come up. Sometimes we click what we don't want, and I was just trying to model how we get back to that. Again, earlier I was talking about using GIFs. So that's what is embedded in this Google slide right now. It automatically plays when you get to the slide. However, you'll notice there's no sound. There's no sound coming out of the video. So if there's something that I'm walking the students through, but they don't necessarily need to hear me, but I want them to be able to watch it over and over again, an option that you can use is downloading as a GIF, and then you can put a GIF into a slide, and so then it's playing in the slide. I'll let it go through one time. Okay, that's everything that we're going to cover today, but I do want to give you this link as well, and I believe Brian's already posted it in the chat, so that you get credit for attending our webinar today. Even though we came to you, you guys still came to a DLT webinar. So if you use this link, you fill out the form, you'll get credit for today. And we'll do our Q&A here just in a second as well. Again, we do have live office hours 8 to 9 and then 2 to 3 every single day. We'll have a DLT member in there. If you don't want to come to the office hours or it's outside of those 2-hour times, if you post to our Flipgrid, we create a tutorial. We actually use Screencastify a lot of the time, or we use Flipgrid to record a tutorial to respond directly back to you that you can go back and watch multiple times. And Brian just dropped that in there. I did also want to point out that we have a webinar catalog on our digital learning website. So earlier I talked about Brian has this phenomenal Screencastify and Flipgrid screen recording. Okay, he had a webinar all about creating tutorials for your students using both of those tools. That's in our webinar. If you want to go even deeper with PairDeck, our coaches have some webinars on there. Lots of tools that you can go and explore. There's some Seesaw, which I know you guys are 3 through 5, but for your special teachers or for your pre-K through 2, there are some trainings in there as well. And then with that, I want to go ahead and open up to our Q&A. So if you have a question, you can drop it over there in the chat, or you can use the nod extension to raise your hand, and then we'll move through some of those questions. It doesn't necessarily have to be about what we just covered today, but if you have any questions at all, you have Brian and I here, and we'll do our best to answer them. The wait time's always, go ahead.
Sorry. So if anyone is out there and they're feeling like, whoa, this was super fast, I need more, what would be the best way? Is there a webinar? Should they set up visit y'all's office hours?
That's a great question. So this webinar is going to be housed in our catalog once I get it uploaded to YouTube, so you can go and watch that. Also embedded in this slide deck, I put resources on Screencastify and also resources on PairDeck. So you can go and explore those as well if you don't want to come to us. But definitely come see us in office hours, because then we can walk through those questions one-on-one. We can go at your pace. If you have, let's say you don't really want the help with walking through it, you just want to know, okay, so how would I actually use this lesson with my students? We can go through how you can schedule it. We can bounce ideas off of each other. Anything that you need, you can come to those hours or post to our Flipgrid. And then that webinar catalog that was also in the presentation has other trainings that go deeper as well on some of these topics.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.